Dude, if this had 12 more hours, this would have probably been like a 150, 155 knot landfall on
So right
Mozambique.
now
I'm
it's
not even
really
kidding.
trying to pick up the pace in the final
If
moments
this if
before
this
we
had
hit.
12 more hours, this would have been the strongest landfall ever in Africa.
Hmm. How strong would you say the
Yeah,
storm is right
but
now?
I think between 110 and 125 knots. I think the reason why my upper bound is so high is because this storm seems to have been a very big case of like observations are much greater than satellite presentation.
Yep.
Because other than its one peak, it really has never had a very good presentation for its insane wind readings.
Yeah. Do you know
So
what the pressure readings were on Mayotte or that island?
I have no clue, but
Yeah.
that, but I mean, the debris, like the way those trees got shredded and everything, suggested at least like a mid-range Cat 3 landfall.
Yep. And I can
At least a mid-range Cat 3.
here I
But
will show
yeah,
some of the damage on Twitter here or on stream. Okay, where is it?
and I'll put it to you this way: for those in Mozambique, this looks better than it did for that landfall. So,
This is looking more
um,
organized than it was when it hit Mayotte.
considerably as well, I must add. So this is for sure. It's for sure rapidly intensifying right now. Yeah, that's very bad.
Damage is likely to look
You can see
very
how it.
similar, at least, to what happened in Mayotte.
Yeah, it's going to be. This is going to be a huge landfall. If this, as I said, this is going to be a rapidly intensifying storm heading onto the island. So, for those in Mozambique, you're streaming now, right?
Yes, it's live.
Okay, good. So, for those in Mozambique who tune in, I
Hmm.
want you guys to know that this is going to be a very, very, very bad storm. If you guys are immediately along the coast, this is going to have huge storm surge for even for. It's not going to be the biggest. It's not going to be like Manies, which was extreme, but it's going to be pretty big. It'll be well above. I would say well above 2 to 2.5 meters.
Hmm.
Sustained winds. Sustained winds will be very strong around this entire vortex. It's a very small and very symmetric vortex, which means that the strongest winds will be pretty much everywhere. Except what I will say is that the north side is going to be slightly stronger, and the winds will be blowing the surge on shore. So if you're north of the landfall site, then you need to get away from the beach
Are you sure it's the north
into a
side or the south
sturdy
side?
structure.
Do you mean south side?
Oh wait, it'd be the south side.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd actually be the south side. The south side, yeah. That's what I meant to say. The south side will be the stronger side blowing those on the shore. I'm so used to northern hemisphere
Yep,
landfalls.
I get you on
So
that one. Yep, so
yeah,
right in
that's
here.
why when I take satellite pictures, I usually will flip them. I a lot of times will flip satellite pictures in southern hemisphere to northern hem just so I can interpret it better
Yep.
because I unless it's got like an eye, I usually am not very good at interpreting southern hemisphere.
Yeah. Fortunately, the Pemba Bay area is getting the opposite right here. The storm surge is coming out. There is a bay over where I don't. No, never mind. That's not a bay. The
Natuko,
nearby over here in my Nakala is a little bit too far south.
yeah, and Suman on Shefe Bakar. That's where the
Hmm.
biggest storm surge concerns will be is Machepa, these areas here, Makufi, these towns here. You guys will get the absolute worst of the storm surge and probably the eye wall.
Yep, all throughout here.
Yep.
I've noticed that there's been a lot of lightning activity off to the east, not by the eye wall. Why is that happening all of a sudden? Why is there a convective burst appearing over here?
It's probably just because it's so close to land.
Okay.
If I take a guess, it's already starting to feel it a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and you'll see that start to form. It could also just be a powerful energetic band. I have a suspicion because this eye is pretty small that if it did keep going, and let's just say hypothetically, it kept on going and Africa wasn't there to stop this. I think there's either one or two things that would have happened. Is this would have probably got to 150 plus knots, or this would have underwent now a replacement cycle pretty quick.
Yep.
This thing has had this eye for a while. It's not like it underwent now a replacement cycle recently. It's had it for probably over a day at this point. So
Yeah.
Storms are prone to hour replacement cycles, and usually when they go for that long, they kind of are forced to hour replacement cycle.
Yep.
So,
System has undergone it like
um,
twice, I think.
a couple times, yeah.
Yep.
But each time it's done it, what I've noticed is that each time it has done that, it it's come back and it really doesn't care if there's land or there's shear or whatever. It's gotten through all of them in a very healthy manner,
Yep.
which I found pretty remarkable. Even its peak north of Madagascar, which got interrupted by the dry air intrusion, that was likely not nearly as weak as people made that out to be.
Yeah.
Looking at the observations, or not the observations, but like just microwave imagery and like
Microwave
satellite
was very impressive there.
for multiple scans is what really like told me that it was probably pretty strong. Is that it was multiple strong scans. It wasn't like a one-off thing.
Yep.
And on visible, it was also one of those peaks where you know how on visible you can see a stadium effect and like a really clear eye, even though IR doesn't really show it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that peak was.
Okay.
So you see multiple clues telling you it's a much stronger peak
Yeah.
what what originally maybe thought, which I think also plays into the fact that when it hit Mayotte, everyone got thrown off guard by how strong it was. I
Yes,
think that's
definitely.
another reason why, because it was being lowballed the entire time.
Yep.
So yeah,
Eye temperature is around minus 55 Celsius, so it's been around that for a little bit. Do you expect any more warming of the eye?
maybe a little bit, but I think it's to the point where if it warms the eye anymore, it really doesn't matter. I mean, as we saw with storms like Yingjing and other storms that do this on approach to land, when it gets within the nearest hour or two of landfall, or it's like very, very, very close to land where the eye wall is already on shore, it can't intensify anymore. It
Yep.
just can't. It physically cannot strengthen its winds any further. So it either way, it's already at peak or maybe even a little past.
Yeah. And then eye starts to
But
cloud over.
yeah, you'll see that probably over the next few scans. You will see the eye start to rapidly cool and the CDO start to rapidly warm
hmm
as the storm collapses.
People are asking,
But I
what do you
mean,
have for Cheeto right now? How strong do you think it is?
I think I would go with just a low end Cat 4. I think
hmm
that's what I would go. Other people went a little more conservative, like 105 to 110, but I think this thing is being a little bit lowballed the whole time. That's what I
Yeah.
would bet. I would bet more like 115, but yeah.
I wasn't
Um,
expecting it to try and get its act together so quickly, close to land.
I was watching for this. I thought it would happen 12 hours earlier.
Yeah.
I was earlier. I was thinking this was gonna be more like a scenario where instead of rapidly intensifying now, it was more like it would be rapidly intensifying almost immediately after leaving that island.
Yes.
And if that had happened instead, you would have been looking at obviously the scenario of a much stronger system by
hmm
this point. So, I mean, in that case, it's kind of lucky, but this thing is already intensifying rapidly, and intensifying storms have a really high gust factor anyway. So, when I say
Yes.
gust factor, it just means that the winds above are already strengthened to a much higher level than the winds below. So, you basically just get these very violent wind gusts, these bursts of wind that
hmm
are destructive in their own right.
Yeah.
That also probably played a bit into why the damage on Mayo was so bad, was because it was doing something similar where it intensified rapidly before landfall.
hmm
That probably played into it.
Yeah, that would make sense. One of the good things about this situation, though, is its forward speed is limiting rainfall. I'll pull that up. Millimeters. And I'll go over to rain accumulation. So the European model only really has around, um,
Yeah,
let's
this makes
see,
total sense.
around 200 millimeters or around 8 inches of rain max. And then lower amounts as you go. It still has a good amount of rain going in all the way towards Zimbabwe.
Yeah, it makes sense. So by now, it's probably just starting to round the edge of this ridge. The reason why this thing is moving so far west and the rainfall isn't really that impressive is because this isn't really a system like an Adai maybe, or like a Chinizo, or like a lot of these other systems in this region where the ridge is still further to the east and it rounds off near Madagascar,
Hmm.
and then instead you get other competing steering currents, and it just kind of gets left in a cult.
Is this it? Like what you're
Um,
talking about right here?
yeah, you can see the big ridge, very expansive ridge there to the south of the system, which in the northern hemisphere, this image is flipped, and instead you get the system rounding the southern edge of the ridge instead of the northern one. But
Yep.
it's the same premise here, is the steering currents predominantly will make this go west. And because it's a ridge and because the air around this system is pretty dry
Hmm.
in general, it's a smaller system. It's got a very compact and tight pressure gradient, which, by the way, that's another reason why the winds are so strong with this, is because this is a system under a strong ridge with a tight pressure gradient. The pressure isn't that low. It's just the winds are much stronger than what the pressure may suggest for
Yeah.
this region of the world. It's also at an unusual time of year, so all of those things play into it. But this is certainly an abnormal situation to have this kind of system at this time of year. Anyway,
Why at this time of year? Is this early?
very early. This is like June 15th for them.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So this is even earlier than Beryl was in the Atlantic, to
Hmm.
kind of put into perspective
That
how
I did not
ridiculous.
realize.
Yeah. In fact, I would go as far as to say is this is their Beryl.
Yeah.
I mean, a borderline Cat 5 peak with multiple other strong peaks is something. What, like, guess what? Beryl did that.
Yep.
So goes to show, and it's also important to note, like, this is another reason why you don't bet. Remember when the storm was just intensifying, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of the models were still showing it weakening rapidly on approach.
Yep. I do remember
If
that.
if you see models do that, let's say you have a system, its environment's not great, right? It's like
Hmm.
15, 20 knots of shear, and the models are showing it rapidly weakening because of that, but it's already strengthening way before getting to that environment. I would bet stronger. I would
Yeah.
hedge towards something more like this, because remember, it's already going to have time to mature and modify its environment to be more favorable locally. So,
Hmm.
the system may not be super healthy by that point. It's not going to be a Cat 5 or anything crazy, but, you'd at least bet on it being a mature, healthy system, relatively speaking,
Yes.
which is what this clearly is. This is a strong, healthy TC by this point. So, yeah,
Hmm. Yep.
very, very impressive stuff here for this time of year.
Yeah. The main concern, of course, is going to be the winds with this system because of how fast it's trying to move. It's moving relatively quickly, right?
Yeah, it
Let's
is.
try and see how fast it's moving. Okay, I'll do miles per hour just so we can interpret it better. Miles.
I mean, you can interpret it in knots pretty easily, too. It's just a little less.
Yeah. Um, so in the past 2 hours, it's moved around 24 miles an hour, or it's moved around 12 miles per hour now.
12 miles per hour, yeah. So,
So it's not moving slow by any means. Like it's not moving at a snail's pace to dump large
and it's
amounts of
very
rain.
clearly not much more than 12 miles offshore by this point. So,
Yep. I mean, it looks like
that's,
24 miles, but this imagery is out of date. Keep that in mind. This imagery is like 30
yeah.
minutes plus out of date.
So it's even closer.
Yep. This imagery
And,
here is going to be around 32 minutes out of date.
yeah. Notice, by the way, how much more symmetric and large the system has become.
Hmm.
This is you can see how basically, when you look at just the shield of clouds. So go back earlier in the loop. Go back earlier in that loop.
Oops.
I want to show you something.
Hmm.
So look at how the system was much smaller, right?
Yep.
From like its an outflow perspective. And you can see obviously that the eye is here, it's clouded over, and you can see this basically 9. You can see this like almost Look at the gray here. You see, it
Yep.
almost makes like a nine shape flipped.
Yes. Let me try and draw that
That's yeah. So
right here.
that shape there tells you that this system was still struggling with some shear at the time.
Hmm.
And the outflow basically is this pole, not the poleward outflow, but the outflow around the system radially had not expanded yet. So it's still fighting the shear and it doesn't really have defined outflow in all directions.
Yeah.
Now, go to landfall,
Let
or
me
very
highlight
close
it
to
again.
landfall.
Highlight the shape of it roughly.
Yeah.
Let me skip ahead forward. And that explosion
And
towards the end.
yeah, you could see just how much more expansive that radial outflow is and how much more symmetric it is.
Yep, the difference between the two, like a banana shape versus the circle,
Yeah.
apple shape, whatever. Perfect
Very,
circle there, right there.
very clear that this thing is doing much, much, much better on approach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably deepened. If I had to take a guess, it's deepened at least 10 millibars since
All
earlier.
right. Now, why is there a
So,
lot more cloud cover on the east side compared to the west side?
so you notice as well. This is because now there's no shear. There's no shear out of that direction. That's
Mm-hmm.
gone. So the west side's over land, and the east side now there's no shear. All that
It's finally
moisture's gotten to the
expanding.
east side. Yeah. So as I was saying, this thing would, if there was another 12 hours, it would be a very symmetric and photogenic annular peak. Maybe not
Yeah.
annular, but you know, it'd be a very photogenic peak for this area of the world. Probably something similar to Kenneth, the 2019, except even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember Kenneth, which was a almost a Cat 5 in this area with a pinhole eye, would have looked
Yeah.
somewhat similar.
Yeah, you can certainly see the little explosion almost of cloud cover there by the Comoros Islands recently.
Yeah. Oh wow! Look at that eye on the latest frame.
Oh, let me see
Warmed
that.
even further.
Yep. Let's take a look at what the eye temperature is now. It's gone down to
Maybe
minus
maybe it
40.
has strengthened just a little bit more.
Minus 40 Celsius, so it's gone from minus 55 to now minus 40.
Yeah, this thing is definitely deepening pretty quick on
Hmm.
approach. That's pretty crazy. Even though it's probably to the point now. Remember Otis?
Yep.
Remember how Otis got to its peak eye temp like literally an hour before landfall?
Yes.
Probably similar here.
Alright. So of course, it should start clouding over eventually, and that's when we'll know we're getting very close to landfall.
Yeah.
This imagery, though, is still around 22 minutes out of date. No,
I
12
wonder, is
minutes
there
out of
any
date.
visible imagery of this?
I don't think so. I'll check.
No, visible's not there yet. Not even close. Wow.
Um,
So, by the way, AFS has consistently been initializing a bit too strong.
yeah, I've noticed that.
It has the storm right now at, believe it or not, 139 knots.
Wow.
So,
Alright,
yeah.
here, I'm gonna answer some of the YouTube chat there. Someone says Cheeto Category 5. Do you think it peaked as a 5?
I actually think it's more likely it did than not.
Yeah.
I think I would go 140, but other people have said 135, and in case you guys are wondering, I'm talking about knots. So
Yep.
140 knots is Cat 5, 135 is Cat 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has a better case for 140 than 135.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into this too deeply because we have a much more important landfall situation to be talking
Yes.
about right now. But I'll just quickly say that compared to a couple of other borderline Cat 5s this year, especially the measurements in the eye were a lot more impressive than those storms.
Yeah.
And the system had zero signs of an hour replacement cycle to be inhibiting it, and the peak lasted a while. So, very impressive, very, very, very impressive storm.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Matt XYT says, "Hey HCC, what's up? I'm late. I think about 7 minutes." Shelby also says, "Hi Chase. Don't forget I'm joined by Crazy KRZY. You're helping out with the stream. Really appreciate it."
Hello there, guys.
Uh, Meteorological Conjared says, "Cheeto have a face. It looks like a dragon." Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like it has a face. I don't know if you've noticed that as well. Right over here.
As per usual with slightly sheared systems,
Yep. You can see it right
yeah,
there.
Pretty pretty typical
Yeah,
for
so
anything sheared. For any sheared system, it's gonna look like that. For most TCs, even they'll have faces or weird appearances like that at times in their
mhm.
lives.
Typically in their
Just
sheared phase,
important,
though.
yeah, especially when they're mid-level sheared, they will look like that
Hmm.
because if you ever Hurricane Matthew is a really good example
Yes.
of a mid-level sheared system. That system never escaped the mid-level shear. It had it its whole life, and it always made those really face looking images. Which, by the way, one of those went super viral and is
Yep.
still used to this day for some reason. But yeah,
So it had it
it's
multiple
pretty.
times, not just that one
Oh
frame.
yeah, probably.
Hmm.
Probably did have it multiple times. It's a common thing with mid-level shear systems. Lee did it. Milton
Yep.
did it. So many systems did it. It's a very common thing.
Yes.
Norma even.
Hmm.
Like many systems look like that.
Yep. Our
Not just
brains
this.
interpret it as it.
Yeah, it's just it's a play on your mind.
Hmm. Let's see what
So
else. Yep. They said they're talking about Dragon Face. Dark Steve says the fact that it moves so far west caught me off guard. 2024 has been ridiculous in the tropics. So what do you think about the westward movement of it?
again, as I said earlier, it's that ridge.
Yep.
It's that
Right
ridge of
here.
high pressure that's been steering it to the west. Other systems in December don't have that kind of ridge to steer it to the west. And
Mm.
what you can probably thank for it being just sitting there, that ridge, is probably the very strongly positive SIOD that has developed. If you take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, you'll see.
Where on what website? Here.
I mean, here you can literally, yeah, you can just
Okay.
go to the sea surface temperature and you'll see it.
Where? Right
You
down
see
here.
here, yeah, look at that very long strip of warmer than average temperatures.
Hmm. So what does this tell
Probably
us?
not a coincidence. Probably not a coincidence. The ridge lines up almost perfectly with that.
Yep.
So, yeah, you can see exactly where that ridge is compared to that warmer than average anomalies.
So how will that influence the season?
So, one thing, I
Hmm.
think it'll be too strong for the first half of the season. Once we get into January and February, this season I think is going to shut down.
Okay.
So I think you're not going to see a very active January and February. You may see systems, but I don't think you're going to see anything quite on the caliber of this for a while.
Hmm.
The ridge being too strong, if you remember the Atlantic bust,
Yep.
until September, of course. The
Yeah.
reason literally was because the ridge was too strong and there was just a very stable air mass over the tropics that entire time.
Hmm.
I think you get something similar.
All right. At least in the
But
beginning.
yeah, but I think that March and April will probably be above average.
Okay.
So I would be looking for an active March and active April and an inactive January and February.
All right. So late season activity, just like the Atlantic.
Yes.
Increased
Very similar
activity
SST
later.
pattern, very similar ridging early. Yeah, very similar overall to the Atlantic this year so far.
Hmm.
So I'd be betting on something similar.
Let's see what people are saying there.
I mean, even this is way closer than a barrel than you'd ever expect.
Yeah.
So,
Catacane says hi guys. Hello. Um, yeah, people were just talking about the fact that it looks like a face, like a T-Rex or whatnot. Pretty
yeah.
interesting.
I think the convection on the east side's also to blame for it.
Yep, that thunderstorm they're trying to develop or whatever. 'Cause
Banding.
yeah, the banding there. So there's a lot of lightning in
Very
it.
impressive.
See if I can zoom in again. Yeah, there's lightning all throughout the eastern side.
By the way, for satellite,
Hmm.
if you want to get some really high res satellite, I would pull up Depaya
Okay.
for some very high resolution satellite. Because this is a different satellite that's very high resolution.
Okay, so what am I looking at? IR?
Go to OTT, yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, I see that. That
Very
has
high
the eye at minus
resolution.
28 Celsius.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
This will register a higher eye temp because it's so high resolution,
Yep.
more like polar.
Wow, alright. Why is this so
I
much higher resolution?
I don't know, but I hope every satellite switches to
Yep,
this.
exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah, you can definitely see that expansion towards the end right there. And yeah, it's that band though on the north that's wrapped around to the east as well. Had a lot of time to grow.
yep, very impressive.
Yes. It would be expanding more on the west, but it's because of there's land, right?
Yeah, take a look. Oh wow, the eye has gotten to. Is that OW? I think the eye is almost OW now.
Let's see.
Wait, never mind. That's just the.
Off white? Yeah, it
Wait,
should be.
no.
Because it's minus 28. Off white starts at like minus 30 something.
Yeah, that is OW on the
Hmm.
newest frame of Tropical Tidbits. Interesting.
Yep.
There's a new frame on Tropical Tidbits, which is slightly
Oh,
more
okay.
updated, but yeah,
Let's see.
it's even warmer.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So it's still doing well
But you
that
can
close to
see,
land.
yeah, but you can see the CDO is starting to warm. So
Yes.
this is now probably peaking, if not peaked,
Alright.
because that CDO is starting to rapidly warm, which is a clear sign that this is not. This is starting to finally waver a little bit.
Yep.
Very impressive lamp, very impressive though nonetheless. And yeah, so I'll say is again for everyone in Mozambique that this is going to be a very potent landfall. This is going to be a landfall this area has not seen in a very long time.
Yep. And also inland areas as well. Did Kenneth go far inland?
Yep.
It's a strong system.
Um, no, but it's not that it's strong that matters. Inland, the rainfall is going to be the concern because
Yep.
it's not a lot of rainfall. It's not like a dye which will dump like feet, but it's the issue with it is I want to say feet by the way. It's like a third of a meter
Yep.
is a feet is a foot.
Hmm.
So it's not like a dye where it'll dump almost a meter of rainfall or anything close to that. This system might only dump a tenth of a meter of rainfall, but it's going to dump it so fast that it's going to be a huge issue,
Yes.
or even like a fifth of a meter. So that's really what I'd be looking for inland is 150, 200 millimeters of rainfall that falls quick enough to cause flash flooding
Yeah.
in usually dry areas.
My main concern, though, is how far those winds are going to penetrate inland. It's nearly a
So if
Category
you look at a
1.
topographical map of Mozambique, you'll notice it's not a huge issue.
Let's see. Hold on. Topographic
There, this
map.
area is not flat inland. This is not a flat inland
Hmm.
area. It's more like it's similar to it landfalling in like eastern China even.
Yeah.
It's not flat.
But still,
As you
those
can see
winds
where it's
should
land
penetrate inland, am I right?
a little bit, but not as much as other areas.
Hmm.
Like you see further down Mozambique, you see down there.
Yep. This area is
That's
flat.
like it. Yeah, that would be a lot worse for
Hmm.
inland flooding and storm surge.
Yep.
But up here, you can see there's some ruggedness to the terrain, which should limit just how bad that really is
Alright.
in this region.
Let's see if I can pull up their forecast on the system. This is. I don't know what forecast. Okay, that's UK Met. That's 0. Okay. So if I pull up the tracker path, I'm gonna put my. Alright, I'm gonna try and see what the elevation looks like. So it's roughly going this way, so. Yeah, here's the elevation up here. It gets to around um, 600 meters in some areas, 500 meters. So it's not that flat, right? What would you consider to be flat?
I mean, I would consider 500, 600 meters. I mean, that's almost 2,000 feet.
Yep.
That's 2,000 feet. So, anything under like 200 meters is getting kind of flat, and anything under like 50 meters, that's like, okay, that's flat. That's flat.
Yep.
100 meters is flat because that's like floor to level flat.
All right. Here's where it starts reaching 200 meters, right in here. So not very far inland.
Yeah. So this system should collapse pretty quick inland if I had to take a guess.
All right.
But it's not going to be like a hitting Taiwan. It'll go a bit inland.
Yep. And conditions will progressively get worse for the system as
Yeah.
elevation will continue to increase.
Yep.
Do you think it's going
But
to
even
reach
still,
Malawi and Zimbabwe as a remnant low?
I think it's a remnant low, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Maybe
don't think
there's
it'll reach.
models wanting that with rainfall. Rainfall's the primary threat for
That would make sense.
Zimbabwe,
It's
western Mozambique, and Malawi,
yeah.
whereas winds are the
Which
concern for the northern part of Mozambique.
rainfall last time with Freddie proved to be the huge issue.
Yep.
So I really want to put some emphasis on that. It's a TC landfalling. It's a mature, strong system with a deep moisture basis. It's not like it's going to just die out instantly.
Yep.
This is a persistent vortex continuously pumping moisture off the ocean. So what's going to happen here is this is not just going to lose its moisture immediately after landfall. It'll still probably be dumping heavy rainfall deep inland.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to note.
Let's see. There's a question here. Grenadine's Death says, "Why was the damage in Mayotte so catastrophic?"
I think it's pretty simple. The system was intensifying very quickly on approach to the island and basically got interrupted while it was trying to intensify. And and this was likely quite a bit stronger than what people had been thinking it was on approach.
Mm-hmm.
This is damage consistent probably with at least a mid to high end Cat 3, if not a Cat 4, which I think is the more likely solution here. And yeah, this was not like even during its dry air intrusion phase, it probably didn't fall below like mid range Cat 2. So
Yeah.
even though people thought it was like a Cat 1 or even like, something like that, it was likely quite a bit stronger. If I take a guess, that's probably the reason why. Because there was an observation of 84 knot 10-minute sustained winds on the island,
Oh wow.
which that's 10 minutes sustained, which is almost 100 knot 1 minute.
And that's
But
just observations.
considering it was moving fast and its obs, that's very impressive in prices.
Yes.
Probably makes me suspicious of something quite a bit higher.
Yeah. How strong do you think it was over Mayotte?
I think again similar, low end Cat 4, somewhere around there.
All right.
But yeah.
Yep, Mayotte is in overseas territory of France. That's what Wolf 3 says. Yep.
It might have even been high in Cat 3. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was definitely considerably stronger than what
Yeah.
most think it was.
Also,
I
those
know
observations
MFR
for
or whatever had
pressure
it like
were just out, or like just in the eye wall, similar to where the observations were on Egalega Island.
what were the observations for pressure?
I do not remember. Oh, wait, actually, I might be able to see. Let's see if observations still work. Do they not? Okay, hold on. For some reason, I can't see.
Do you have like a range that you remember it being?
I saw it was in like the 980s at that point, so I was like, that doesn't
In
seem
the eye wall?
right. Yes, but like it seemed like it might have gone down or something at a certain point, so I do not know. I'd like to see. Maybe if I select here, nearest weather station. Oops. Not there. Where would this be? Is this it? Oh, here we go.
Off topic, but in the Bering Sea, there's a massive bomb cyclone right now.
Yo, yeah, I saw that. I'll pull that up shortly. I'd like to see where that weather station was because it doesn't seem to be reporting anymore.
It makes sense. It probably got destroyed.
Okay, here we go. This might be the weather station. Pressure got down to, well, it's not showing on this one. Let me pull up the next one. Okay, I think it was this one right here. Pressure got down to, okay, this one's weird. This shows 999, so I don't trust that. Let's see which one I want to see. Maybe this one. It doesn't show pressure here for some reason. I see the pressure line, but I don't see. Oh, never mind. That's temperature, not pressure. Or, I don't know. There was a station that was showing pressure in the 980s, so I'm trying to figure out which one that was.
980 is that's still just really weirdly
Oh,
high
here we
for
go. I
that.
found it. 985 millibars right here.
985 millibars, yeah, that's weird.
Yep. So it's right over here on this island. I will show it compared to. Here's the storm. You can see the eye somewhere right in there, and then the station's right over here.
Yeah.
So it bottomed out at, or actually 984 millibars, and then started quickly rising. So I don't know why it was that high of a pressure there. I wish that there was an observation more north, where it got actually into the eye instead.
Let me see. Hold on. Seems like models think this thing is too small to really have as much of an impact inland as I thought.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking at for models?
Like half sand H-Dwarf.
Mm-hmm. I'll pull that up. If they have it as like a
They're,
remnants thunderstorms in Malawi.
dude, why is the eye? It's like looks like it's trying to like force clear, even though it just can't.
Yeah.
Crazy.
People in chat were also talking about how it's similar to Otis. So they're like, oh, so Chido is
Yeah.
pulling at Otis. I don't think it's rapidly intensifying that much, but in terms of the eye structure, yes.
Or like a John.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. John's wasn't as clear, though.
Yeah. It's between,
Yep.
kind of.
So HWRF
Yeah.
still takes it as like a remnants system into Malawi, just not.
It's way too large and strong on that run. Note that
Okay.
too.
All right.
That's too strong. Look at what pressure it shows.
You got 938 millibars.
That is way too deep.
Mm-hmm.
If this was actually in the mid 930s, it would be Cat 5
All
because of how. Maybe not. Well, yeah, I mean, this is basically, as I said, it's similar to Barrel. It's under that big ridge, so the pressure readings are going to be much different than what you'd expect with most systems.
Mm-hmm. So Habs
Much
has
higher
it in the
pressures.
upper 940s. That's more
Upper
reasonable.
940s would make more sense. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would probably constitute a 120 knot, 115, 120 knot if you
Mm-hmm.
were to estimate. So yeah, maybe I think this might be more like 950 on the dot, but yeah.
Yeah.
There were some half runs showing it being 950 in a Cat 5.
That was insane. I saw that.
Go back and see if you could find one of those.
Oh, yep, I'll go back. Go back to yesterday's.
Yesterday's
must have
felt way
been
too
before
weak.
that. Oh, after that? Okay, let's see. Nope, that's 130 knots. Let's go even. Here we go, 949 millibars, 140 knots.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Alright, let's go to the most recent one in terms of rainfall. I'd like to take a look at that.
The eye is now likely less than 15 miles offshore.
Alright. Is that from the current imagery?
I mean, as current as it gets, it's 0251Z, so about 12 minutes ago.
Yep.
It's likely 15 miles or less offshore. So this is likely less than. It's likely at an hour or less until landfall.
Alright. I had it set at 25 minutes.
I would put it at. I put it an hour from now.
Okay.
So basically, if you had started live streaming at 11, you would have caught landfall within like
Yeah.
15 minutes, so it would not have been good.
Yep. I'm gonna increase it then to 55 minutes, I think.
Sounds
Once
perfect.
time thing updates. XL Digital Gamer says, hope Malawi didn't get Cyclone Freddy treatment. It shouldn't. This is a much weaker system going in there, faster as well. So
Well,
rainfall
it's not
there.
weaker. It's actually stronger than Freddy was at this point in its
Oh
life.
yeah, but no, I mean over Malawi. Once it reaches
Yeah,
Malawi.
it'll be weaker by then, yeah, because it's tinier. But
Yep.
a lot of systems like Freddy that go on forever and ever and ever will usually be quite large.
Mhm.
Is a good rule of thumb. They'll usually be a lot larger systems with much deeper moisture expanses.
Yep.
So you can always bet on them being a little bit more impactful inland.
Yes. This is a smaller storm.
Yeah, under obviously a very strong ridge too.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of it's pretty interesting because this is really the only basin. This is the only basin worldwide where you actually get to see like this kind of system, like semi-annular, um, small core, compact. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like these much more buzzsaw like systems that are in much drier environments compared to something like the South Pack, where South Pack is just a mess. I've never seen an organized system in the South Pack.
Speaking of the South Pacific, we have a disturbance there. What are your thoughts on that?
That thing has got to be ugly, then,
Yep.
doesn't it? This, I'm serious. I've yet to track a solid South Pack system,
Yeah.
other than maybe Kevin.
Yes. I've tracked Yassi and Faraji,
Ah,
but that was like when I wasn't really that great.
makes sense.
And someone in chat was talking about Chase. There might be a storm developing near the Philippines next week. Let's take a look at that. And yeah, they mentioned that we've given a 40% chance of developing so far. So, I mean, there is a possibility that Mindanao gets impacts from this system. We're just not 100% sold yet that it's going to be like a named system. Should be rainfall though, right? Like, should be increased rain chances, increased rain rates.
Yeah,
Just don't know if the winds are going to be bad. If we're going to get a solid tropical cyclone out of this, or if it's going to be too close to land where it won't be able to develop that much. What do you think, Crazy?
this system, I think it's gonna not be able to do it.
All right. Why is that too close to land?
Yeah,
Now, what about in the Philippine Sea? These models have wanted it to try and develop there as well.
no. I mean, no.
Right.
Maybe you get something brief to develop. I'd be pretty surprised if you get a solid system to develop out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's important to note is these low riding systems in the wintertime are actually more dangerous than you'd think in the Philippines,
Why is that?
as they oftentimes have very deep moisture, and especially in this year where we have very warm temperatures near the equator in the Pacific, especially in the Indo-Pacific, I must specify, the waters are much warmer than usual. So I'm pretty sure these disturbances actually have a very big rain threat.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those systems that's sneakily extremely dangerous
Yes, in terms of flooding.
in the Philippines. Yes. As you can see, look what kind of waters are under it. 30 Celsius.
30 Celsius is this color right in here.
Yep.
And 29 Celsius goes very far.
I don't think. I honestly don't see the 29 Celsius getting further north or further south than Visayas for that boundary for the
Yep.
whole winter. Which means next year somehow we're going to have even more subtropical warmth.
Yes. All right. I wish that the
Pretty
basin
crazy how
could
much
just get like shut down for a year or something like that. Just
the West Pack.
yep, just stop with all the deadly storms every year.
The West Pack is too warm and too large to shut down for an entire
Yep.
year. There's no There have been very inactive West Pack seasons before, but to shut down the West Pacific, it takes a very monumental thing to occur.
Yep.
Because at the very least in the West Pacific, you will get at least one or two super typhoons. You'll get at least probably maybe five or six majors. You'll probably get 15 name storms at least. I mean, you're going to get a lot of activity in the Pacific every year.
It's like I'd wish that they'd be more fish storms, if that makes sense. More out to sea recurvatures.
So in a negative PDO era with a strong Nina, or at least a permanent, semi-permanent Nina that we've had, it's very hard to get that.
Yep.
And it's important to note that in any given season, most of your recurvatures are going to hit Japan anyway.
Yeah. Which is not
So
good again.
it really doesn't matter. In the West Pacific, every single storm is a threat, and it does not matter.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, you'll have Haiyan's and main cuts and those like extremely dangerous storms in the Philippines, but it really doesn't matter. Every single storm in the Pacific is always a threat as soon as it forms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's see what else. Grenadine's Death says, what are your personal estimates for the four peaks of Chido? First one before Agalega, second main one after Lega, third one north of Madagascar, fourth one currently.
We need a little bit more time to reanalyze all this.
Yes. I will be
I
making an animation on this storm, of course, and we'll have our analysis there.
Yeah, I already told Chase. I said this is probably going to take a little while to reanalyze. There's a
Yep.
lot to go through here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna get a lot of opinions before I make my final judgment.
Yep.
That's for sure.
I'd probably like to have the
So,
animation out by, let's see, when will this storm likely dissipate? Okay, it's still going to be going on Monday, so I don't know when, probably not the 15th, not the 22nd, maybe 29th, I don't know.
yeah, I would
If it dissipates
I would
on
let.
well, no, actually, it can't. Never mind. All right, what were you saying?
Yeah, I said I would get this out as soon as possible.
Yep. Problem is, it's probably going to be still lingering as a remnant low on Saturday night. So.
Yeah,
Wait, is today Saturday night?
I mean, yes, it
Yeah,
is.
okay, yeah, never mind then. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to push this out. Oh, wait, no, actually, I can. Yeah, I can. On the 22nd, I can totally get that out. My
Yeah, that'll
fault.
be perfect. That gives us a week to do everything we need to do.
Yep. I forget that it's dissipating before
Yeah,
the
because
21st, when I can actually animate it, so this is dissipating
it
way
is.
earlier, so yeah. I should have this out on the 22nd. Yep, thank you for clarifying that. Hmm. And this will give me another week to work on Western Pacific and another week for the North Indian Ocean for these systems to finally do what they want to do. Because I don't want to miss them in my
Yeah, and
animation.
then yeah, and if I had to take a guess, you'll also probably end up having something in the southern hemisphere animated at some point.
Yep.
Something else in a different
Yep.
basin. I think during the time where the Indian Ocean doesn't really produce much, I think you'll probably get a storm or two. Potentially, if the basin wants to wake up in the South Pack.
Yeah. Man, the good thing
Because
about this
for some
time of year
reason,
is I'm finally able to focus on projects that I like to do. Stuff like I want to animate 2017 North Atlantic, that kind of stuff. Do hypotheticals. all that stuff.
Oh, 2017 North Atlantic. What
Yep.
a fun season to
hmm
Reynolds.
And then we'll get to work on the hypotheticals.
Basically, here's a rule of thumb for 2017 North Atlantic is
hmm
on Irma and Maria, you go 5 knots lower than NHC, and you're probably going to be correct on 90% of the estimates.
All right. Yep. I'll ask for
So
help
instead
once
of
I'm
Irma
there.
155, you go Irma 150. Instead of Maria 150, you go Maria 145, and you're probably going to be pretty much
hmm
perfect.
Yep.
But yeah, back
See
to the
what
main
other people
topic
are
here of
saying.
discussion.
Do you think the AOI in the Western Pacific could become Pabuk Querban or Querbin, Querubin? We've given it like a 40% chance, so there's a
I mean, it
possibility,
can.
but there's a possibility it won't. So a moderate chance of it being able to do that.
It's not like Sarah, where
Yep.
Sarah was almost guaranteed to become something. It's
hmm
like this is. Um, I wouldn't say this is almost guaranteed to become something. It's more like it's either going to get squashed or it'll go big. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think a lot of it also depends on convective behavior. Like if this thing somehow organizes further northeast than expected, then you can maybe get something out of it. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't hedge my bets.
Let's see what else. XL Digital Gamer says I saw the face on it. Yep, on Cheeto. Let's take a look at
Yeah,
the face again. Looking less and
it looks
less
like
like a face now. Kind of. I can still see the remnants of it.
yeah, as expected.
This face was the peak of the storm, or peak of the face structure, I guess. Looked really, really
Yeah,
close to a face.
I wonder if these bands on the south side very much so.
For storm
Well,
surge.
actually, it doesn't really have much banding. No, no, mainly for tornado risk. I thought there
Oh,
might
okay.
be bands on the south side for tornado risk, but it doesn't really look like it
Maybe
has
the
any
southwest side is the worst.
for storm surge.
For tornadoes.
It would be the southeast.
Okay. I was gonna say we have thunderstorms bubbling up on the southwest, not really on the southeast.
See, the southeast. What's important to remember is in the southern hemisphere, it's flipped in one axis and not the other. So
Okay. Now that I
it's
did
not
not
like
know.
you've
Yep.
it's not like you've rotated it 180 degrees. It's like instead you flipped it across the
Yep.
x-axis. So obviously the x-axis in this case is the equator.
Mhm.
So everything, whether it's west to east, is the same. It's just everything north to south is flipped.
Yep.
Is the important thing to remember.
Mhm.
Like if you've ever seen Australian supercells, that's the way they look.
All right.
That's a good way to remember. And if you hold on, let me show you something pretty cool as well. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the main peak of this.
Mhm.
I'm gonna send you an image of main peak. All right.
Yep.
Um, this is actually what main peak would have looked like if it was an NHEM.
Let's see.
I just damned it to you.
All right. Hold on. There we go. Oh wow. Yeah.
I mean, it just looks like an Atlantic hurricane, doesn't it?
Yep. Reminds me of storms like Kirk or Sam. Exactly looks like it.
Yeah, Kirk, Christie,
Mhm.
um, many other systems like that. That's exactly what they look like in
Yep.
the northern hemisphere. It's just that this system had very good eye stats, which is the big difference
Yes.
between a lot of those systems. Is this had very good eye stats? But yeah, when I
The
say eye stats, by the
temperature
way, it's like
has seems like it's cooled a bit now, down to around minus 38 Celsius. This imagery is
makes
still out of
sense.
date though.
No, it's not cooled on this. Maybe it has a little bit.
Here
I'm
we
not
go.
sure.
We have our first visible imagery of the storm.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yep. Take a look at all those thunderstorms that you can see.
This is literally the perfect timing for sunrise.
Yep.
Wow.
We can see that eye right in there.
That is a terrifying image.
Yep. So it doesn't seem like there's much thunderstorms going on in the southeast, which is good for the tornado threat. See all the
Yeah,
amount of thunderstorms and stuff over here, and banding.
yep. You can see the eye there clouded over.
Yep. But it's still very noticeable.
Yep.
And then you can see these thunderstorms down here. So cool, right on sunrise. You can see just the shadows of them.
As I said, this is not. This is literally the perfect time for the sunrise to occur.
Yep.
Yeah, the eye has just started to cool on this frame.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive.
Yes. Now, is it starting to cool because of a new vertical heat tower on the northeast, like new convective burst? Trying to
No,
cloud it
this
over?
is this is actually
Okay.
this is the land interaction. Yeah.
All right.
Any warming of the eye beyond this point is just a fluke.
Okay.
But very impressive how far it's gotten.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of new thunderstorms developing, if you can see here. These new bursts all over here.
Yeah.
Which, of course,
Again,
soon
probably as
increases
a
the
result.
rainfall threat.
Probably as a result of landfall, we're starting to see the
Yep.
banding really amplify, which is common.
Mm-hmm.
When this thing makes landfall, and probably about 8 hours, like in about 8 hours after this thing has made landfall, and the vortex is really starting to disintegrate, what you'll see is this massive. If you look at it, go to like the halves, you should see it very clearly
Let's see.
being simulated. Look at that gigantic band that forms offshore.
Yep. Oh, this one right here.
Yeah,
Basically
but go
right
a little
along
earlier. A little earlier.
That.
Yeah, massive spiral band that
Yep.
should initiate offshore. I don't think it's
Let's,
quite simulating properly. Maybe the H-Warf has it better.
let's take a look at that. We have
But
some
usually,
bands over here, kind of, but
usually after a big system like this makes landfall, there's a huge,
like a
expansive.
QLCS.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it with any mesoscales. It's maybe other runs have it.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
here's something right here, kind of. Well, I mean, the band extends outwards.
Yeah, but you can see what it's trying to simulate.
Yep.
In most cases, after a system landfalls, you get this just gigantic, expansive banding offshore
Yep.
that eventually moves the system onshore and dumps a bunch of rain. But
Yeah. Scarlet says, I feel like over time, more strong storms worldwide, and every storm by now are usually smaller and smaller over time. Is it just me?
I would say that storms this year have been weird. We've gotten some weird storms, but I wouldn't say
Yes.
there's been more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, if you look at the long-term trends, especially in the Pacific, the long-term trend has shown less.
Less storms.
But obviously the Pacific is in an unfavorable period right now anyway,
Yep.
so that could play in it. But the Atlantic, especially, or not the Atlantic, the Pacific, especially in the 50s, 60s, and 90s, was very active.
Mm-hmm.
1997, 1960 or 50 something, one of those years was extremely active. I think both of those years had north of 500 ACE, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which, if you think ACE is accumulated cyclone energy, that's basically a measurement of how much. Basically, I guess it's a measurement of how strong storms are over periods of time. It's not really a measurement of energy. That would be Tyke, but Tyke is useless.
Yes.
Don't please, if you're gonna estimate a season, do not use Tyke. But but basically, with ACE, it's a good measurement that shows how long-lived and strong storms are.
Yeah.
And what you'll note is in those Pacific seasons, like 1997, 1959, I think it may have been 1950 something. They were north of 500, which is extreme. That means you had multiple category 4 or 5 storms that lasted several days, and on top of that you had several other storms like that were became majors or even just typhoons above the quantity you would usually get.
Yeah.
And when you get those seasons, it's very different. Those are the seasons that are like, wow, like every single, every week there's a big storm going on, pretty much.
Yes.
It feels like. This hasn't really been like that. This is the big storm here, but you'll get long periods of inactivity. I mean, this year we had several long periods of significant inactivity across the world.
Hmm.
The Atlantic, we had two main peaks this year in terms of activity. We had July, which was pretty big.
Yep.
July was a pretty big peak of activity worldwide, and
And late
then
September, early October.
yeah, late September, just into October and November in general was the
Hmm.
main peak of this season
Yeah.
worldwide. Where that time of year or that period, we literally did not have a time where there wasn't storms going on. But
Here I can show you the cyclones of
there were
2024
several live
chart
streams with several strong storms,
right
and
here.
see, I mean, September was pretty active worldwide, I guess, but
Yep.
you could see how October, you could see into late September and October just how much it steepens and how,
Yep, and into November as well.
yeah,
But it's been interesting seeing the quiet period in April, May, June, which typically happens, but to this extent was pretty interesting.
yeah. Worth noting as well, the storms in August and September, or early September, were generally a lot weaker than the
Yes.
storms that occurred in mid to late September and into October.
Yep.
In general, there was a few exceptions, but yeah.
Hmm. Mr. Peach was saying less storms but more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you can make the more powerful argument either.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you look at a few historical storms, let's look at a few historical storms. Rita, 1978, or not Irma, Ida, 1945, I want to say.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm digging deep here, but yeah,
Yeah.
Dianmu, 2004, like, just across all these time periods, you will get these extremely powerful storms that last a while and are, they're incredible to track. They're insane storms, very organized. You'll get them, on a pretty consistent basis. I would say you'll get some here and there all the time. We're actually right now, we're kind of at a deficit. We haven't seen a lot of those recently
Yeah.
compared to what you'd usually see. We've seen a lot of these. We've seen a lot of like 130 to 160 knots, but we haven't seen a lot exceeding that. The only one we've really seen recently was Belavin, or maybe
Okay.
Jova.
I was thinking all the way back in 2018 was the last one we've had really strong storms.
2018,
Yep.
like worldwide, you mean?
I know I'm talking about with the Western Pacific.
No,
I know
Agabus,
2020,
Goni.
2019. Yep. But I mean like 2018,
Yeah.
the amount of frequency of it as well.
Oh yeah, like multiple 150
Yep.
exceeding knots. I mean, 2023 did have two 160 knots,
Yeah.
and 2022 did have several like 140 to 150. Hindenor was more like 160,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, we've had quite a few.
All right. Grenadine just says, fun fact: it took until September 1st, 2022, for the year to see its first Cat 5 worldwide. Back in 2022.
That is pretty crazy.
Yep.
I do remember that season being quite anemic until Hindenor happened.
Hmm. Aileen Rose says, hello, I'm back here after the last live stream after Pepito made landfall in the Philippines. How are you doing? How was the recovery there? I don't know how bad the impacts were for you. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Which one was Pepita? That was Manyi, right?
Man, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I remember that so well.
Um, yeah. I hopefully everything has been good over there in the Philippines after all of those typhoons. You guys have been having quite the year with those. That's for
Yep.
sure.
And this next system shouldn't really impact them, right? Hopefully. Let's hope not.
That area, no. It'll
Uh,
be much further south, and the
like Mindanao.
Visayas and south probably. Yeah,
Right there,
but
just sticking to the south. The European ensembles all stick to the south.
there were a lot of runs earlier on that had it moving further north, but they
Hmm.
also had it erroneously strong early.
Yep.
So,
Damien LeBrave says, yeah, finally I did not miss the live final landfall stream. Hi all. Yep, hello. I am joined by Crazy,
you're
KRZY, who's helping with the coverage. Really appreciate his help.
very welcome. Yeah, I've missed all of them until now, so
Yes.
I've been available most of these times. It's just they've all been happening at really bad times for me,
Yep, like in the
like
middle of the
middle of the
night.
night.
Yes.
Yeah,
We are Americans. We are in the United States, so our time zones are different than theirs. So
yeah, we've been getting pretty unfortunate with the timings of these landfalls
worldwide,
for
it
us.
feels like it's always been night. Even when storms hit our regions, they hit our nighttime.
Yeah, it sucks. Like the only storm recently I can really think of that didn't hit in the middle of the night was Ian.
Yeah.
I mean, that hit midday, but that's the only one that did that
Yep.
recently. It feels like
Mhm.
what Adalia was like in the early morning.
Yep.
Debbie hit in the early morning.
I remember Trammy hit in the
Helene,
early morning.
yeah, Trammy hit in the early morning. Kong Ray hit. I think Kong Ray wasn't the early morning,
Mhm.
but I mean, Kong Ray hit 50,000 other places at once, so it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
I mean, it hit the whole Westpac. Like, what?
Yeah. Zenith says, Chase, I'm making a 2024 Western Pacific animation. Nice. I'm currently trying to make mine as well, but of course there's always going to be a system trying to
Oh,
ruin
wow,
my
the eye
plans, so.
warmed further.
Oh, the eyes warmed even further? Okay, let's take a look at that.
Oh, wow, look at the new visible frame.
Okay, I'm going to refresh that.
Wow. That's impressive.
Wow, okay, yeah. You can really see that eye. You can see all the thunderstorms on the northern side bursting up right over here. You can see a couple thunderstorms on the southwest side. That is very impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying though, hoping that the system doesn't form not only for those in the Philippines, but also I'd love to release my animation sometime without these storms constantly forming or constantly appearing out of nowhere. Same thing with the
It
storm
was
in the North
very nice.
Indian Ocean. India there,
Look at,
especially southern India, needs a break after Fengol.
yeah.
Grenadine's Death says, names I hope to see get retired, Gaimi, Yagi, Trammy. Yep.
In
I
the
don't,
Westpac?
yeah, in the West Pack.
Was Man Yi not worthy of retirement?
Um, I just don't know about the damages and in terms of monetary damages and deaths.
Deaths, especially, probably
Yep.
not.
So there's only
Makes
like
sense.
7 deaths. It was only in the single digits. Trammy did over 100.
That makes a lot more sense because Trammy was huge.
Yep. Very monsoonal, so.
Trammy is probably the most monsoonal storm I've ever tracked.
Yep.
To put that into perspective, I was not expecting it to be that large. I
Yes.
Remember, I thought it would be, something smaller would separate out of it, but no. Just
Yeah.
no.
But yeah, Gaimi makes sense, Yagi makes sense.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, in other basins too. Multiple other storms being retired in other basins probably this year.
Yep. Alright, we are
Worldwide,
looking
a
at
very
around.
bad year for landfalls.
Yes. Would this be potentially a record for most amount of retired storms in a year worldwide?
I don't think that, but it's still probably in the upper percentiles if I take a
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Alright. Latest frame has the eye around 15 kilometers away from landfall, and that latest frame is 14 minutes out of date.
That's the east side of the eye. Remember, that's the east side of the eye.
Oh, okay, so the center would be somewhere right here. So yeah, around 10 kilometers away.
Yes.
Yep, that would make more sense. So yeah, we are pretty
Because
close to the landfall.
look at the center of the storm.
Yep.
Don't look at the center of the storm as where the eye is clearest. Look at the center of the storm with like the
Yeah.
center of
Yep.
the circle of the rim.
Yep.
That's the best indicator.
Yeah. So it'd be this right here instead of just this. Of
Yeah.
course. Yep. So those along the coast, they should already be experiencing some parts of the eye, correct?
Yeah, either the
Some
eye
parts of
or
the calmness.
even the front or the eye wall.
Yep.
I would
McGuffey.
imagine.
And parts near Liro, they're getting the worst storm surge right now. The wind's constantly blowing onshore. Very strong winds. Fortunately, Pemba Bay, that area, winds are funneling out to sea. Or winds are pushing the water out to sea, mostly.
Yep, I do want to see. So far, I'm not seeing any video or anything on Twitter from this region.
Yeah, that makes sense. It takes around a day or so, or at least until the storm starts to pass, that people are finally able to get communications back up, especially. Because
Oh,
communications have to get knocked down, right?
yeah.
Yep.
I accidentally closed out my Discord, so I didn't hear like half of that.
No worries. What was I last talking about?
Well, no, I heard enough to interpret what you were saying.
Okay, the storm surge kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Uh, Alien Rose says, "Do you think there's going to be another typhoon in the Western Pacific?" Probably not.
I
This would be the only system.
typhoons probably not. Yeah.
This would really be the only system that would have even a chance. It
I mean,
shouldn't,
the
though.
large scale pattern is still good for December. It's just getting a wave in the right spot is hard.
Yeah.
Um, and something not interacting with a very cold northeast monsoon.
Yep.
Because like Yingjing worked because of its time of year. Like October, it's not that cold of a monsoon yet, but now if a northeast monsoon interacted with a typhoon, that thing is dying quick.
Yeah.
So, or even any tropical wave, it's not going to last long with that monsoon.
hmm I remembered you were mentioning something about the Western Pacific front, or that bomb cyclone up there.
Yeah,
Look at this. Right there.
pretty crazy.
Yes. Let me try and get a loop of it.
Very
Beautiful
well defined
system.
bomb cyclone.
Yep.
Wow. Even some lightning showing up in that.
Oh, yeah. The Ocean Prediction Center was predicting it to reach like 100 knots, sustained winds, so.
That makes sense. Very,
hmm
very, very powerful system in the
They were
930s.
doing 70 to 100 knots, so that was a very high end forecast.
Yeah, which probably seems to verify given that.
Yeah. We're gonna take a look at what the models are showing for it. In terms of winds, anything purple is gonna be hurricane force or typhoon force winds.
And yeah, exactly what you'd expect. That
Yep.
Sting Jet is ridiculously powerful.
Yes. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like those typhoon force winds are going to reach the Alatuan Islands or
Pollution.
yeah, Aleutian. Yeah, thank you. Yep. So really, it's just a fish storm for the winds there. Will of course create strong winds for those islands.
If anything, I think the surf is going to be extreme near that.
Yes, let's take a look at what should I look at for the surf significant wave height.
Yes.
All right, there it is. This would be around 50 feet. Right there.
Yeah.
Anything in purple is around 20 feet.
Yep.
Hey, how bad do you think the surge will be for Cheeto?
I said 2 to 2.5 meters is what I thought, like at least, but I think it could even be up to three.
Okay.
3 meters.
Of course, happen in the southernmost part. There's a bit of a, I believe this is a concave coastline. Is that correct?
Not a. I mean, yeah, but it's not near the storm, and it's not enough to matter.
All right.
So concave shoreline is something you take note of when it's a lot larger than the storm's eye, and it's the storm is in the middle of it.
Yep.
So, like the Bay of Campeche, for example, is great for spinning up vortices because the entire thing is one
Yes.
huge concave storm.
Oh, but I meant like for storm surge.
Yeah, that could matter.
Yes. There's a river over here.
That matters. That matters.
Yep. Pushing the water upstream.
That absolutely matters for the. Yeah, that is a very bad landfall location for that river.
Let's see.
Any more dips south, and it brings the eye wall over that river, which would be very bad.
Yeah.
Let me take a look at the pie and see if there's another new visible frame. There is, and I'm just wondering what. Yeah, this is now
Yep, we got a new
definitely
frame,
being just.
I think, right?
Yeah, that is new.
Okay. So again, you can see the thunderstorms, you can see the cleared, or not clear, but somewhat, or you can see the visible eye on here. You can see more thunderstorms bursting up to the southwest. So it's really nice that we're able to see a lot more features now that's day for them. Of course, the problem though is people there are just waking up to the storm, delivering cyclone strength winds to the coastline, parts a little bit further inland as well.
Yep. Now, what I'm wondering is, now it seems like this is probably
Oh, here's the latest microwave pass.
latest MW. Ooh, I'm interested to see this. Worse than I thought.
Yeah.
Not as good as earlier.
So that was 126
You know what that tells?
Zulu.
You know what that tells me?
What?
This would have absolutely had an hour replacement cycle if this went a little longer.
Yep. This band right here.
Yeah. That also looks like, to me, is the band actually disrupting the core a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that band is really powerful.
Yep.
But either way, I mean, that's a strong enough MW to where that's still a powerful core. And
So you still think it's a Category 4?
I mean, yeah, I think it could be a Cat 4 with that.
Okay.
Could also just be a Cat 3. I mean, it's either way. By this point, it's not a huge, like 5 to 10 miles an hour between 105, 110 knots, and 115, isn't it?
It doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah. It just shows that it isn't rapidly intensifying at
Yep.
the moment. It's probably quite unstable too.
Yeah. Here's these thunderstorms again, firing up along here. What does this tell you, Crazy? The
The
fact that there's a lot of
thunderstorms.
thunderstorms over here.
Well, man, that's just a big band. Look at the MW.
Yep. Oops, right there.
You can see that huge band on the eastern and southern side that matches with those thunderstorms.
Yep.
So,
The eye is getting closer and closer to a landfall. Do you think within the next 15 minutes?
um, yeah, I mean, I think that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Because this imagery is around 24 minutes out of date. So, yeah, this frame is like 24 minutes out of date. And you'd add an additional 15 minutes to it. Should be a landfall at that point.
Yeah,
So at 4
it's
Zulu, should be a
very close
landfall.
right now. It's very close, if not already there right now.
Yep. Okay.
Let me see.
I'm interested to know the population of these areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me go to Google Earth and get some information off of
Yep.
that. So, what are the town names?
Mikufi District. I don't know where that is. District. Okay, that's this general area where it's making landfall. Has a population of around 70,000. I don't know where the district line is.
Makufi. Very. This coastline here is very See where it's making landfall.
Okay, so it goes from Mikufi to.
It seems like this area is very
Yeah, so you see
sparsely.
this area.
It's
This.
sparsely populated,
Yep. But it does
but it
have
doesn't look like
around.
it's an area that's very built up.
Mhm. This area right in here
This
has
is yeah.
around 70,000 people.
I don't think there's very much infrastructure in this area that's able to sustain a storm this powerful.
Let's take a look to verify that. Where is it? It's over.
Yeah, I don't like.
Right over here. Let's see, am I able to put my person here? No. Okay, let's see if I can zoom out at all, find anywhere. Nope, don't have any Google Earth capabilities or
There's a spot on the.
Hmm?
This area is beautiful, but yeah,
Yeah, you can kind of see
this
what
is a
the
beautiful area.
buildings look like on satellite.
Devastated. This is a beautiful area looking at Google Earth. This is an absolutely gorgeous area that's going to
Yeah.
get absolutely ransacked by this.
Oh, and that river that I was
Which
talking
is
about
heartbreaking.
over here, I think. Or wait, no, where is it? Oh, it's this river right down here.
Yeah.
The Liro River. Some communities live right along the river.
Yeah, that is going to be. Yeah, that instant rush of water is going to be a huge problem. Wait, the eye is still warming on this angle? What?
So the ice still warming.
On this thing, apparently the reason why we're not seeing a warmer eye is because zenith angle on that other satellite.
Yep.
Interesting. Let me see if cyclonic has some decent visible. Better than tropical, but still bad.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's just low quality.
Very weird.
Yeah, you're able to see that little bit of a. Would this be considered, the stadium eye?
Sorta.
Where part of it's now overland, at least on
Upper
this
part,
imagery.
you're kind of. Yeah.
Because this part would be the stadium, right in here. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
And then this area would be roughly the actual eye.
Yeah. Well, which area are you talking about?
All right, so I mean, like this whole area is going to be the. Or hold on, oops, let me forget. This whole area would be like the stadium, right?
Yeah, this would be the actual. That'd be the outer eye, or not outer eye, but that'd be the eye wall
Mm-hmm. So this is all
there,
the
and then
eye
on the
wall
inside.
right in here.
Yeah, only a little bit in from that is where the eye begins.
Okay, so somewhere like in here.
Yes.
Yep. So that's also starting to touch land.
That might already be a landfall.
Yeah. We have landfall scheduled in around 8 minutes, 8 minutes 40 seconds. This imagery right here is 31 minutes out of date, so.
I think that would be a landfall then.
Mm-hmm. We'll declare it in around 8 minutes or so.
Uh,
Just see the newer frames when they come out. Okay, this new frame just came out right here. Notice that vertical heat tower on the west side. How it's going overland. Does that show you anything? Tell you anything?
Not really.
Okay. Again, you can see the line of thunderstorms is banned right here. Developing. Thankfully, it's offshore right now. You think this will be pulled onshore shortly?
Eventually, not immediately though.
Mm-hmm. And then will this start to wrap around the storm?
Not really.
Okay, so it should stay mostly east of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Grenadine Death says, what are the analogs for the 2024-25 Southwest Indian Ocean season? I don't know, crazy. Do you have an answer?
What's going on?
What are the best analogs for this next, or this Southwest Indian Ocean season?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We honestly, we talk about Atlantic analogs or Westpac analogs, but
Yes.
Southwest Indian Ocean analogs are a little. It's a little sketchy going there because like it's really hard to kind of get analog information even
Yeah.
for that area. We know the basics of what can modify the season, but getting specific analogs is it's murky.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Aileen Rose says there's like a face on Cheeto. Yep. We've been looking
Yep,
at that
it's
for a
had
bit.
a little while.
Now it's lost it. I'd say it's lost it. But earlier it
Yeah.
did have one right there. Looked like a very obvious face in my eyes. Now it's getting torn apart. That band that was on the south there, kind of falling apart, or the cloud tops. So it's not as evident. Looked like it had a horn. Now it's gone. TCXLC32 Animation says Cheeto is kind of like Kenneth 2019. Now, Crazy, what are the big differences between this storm and Kenneth?
Kenneth was a short-lived sheared pinhole. Shorter lived anyway. It wasn't short lived. It did have a bit of life to it, but it was mainly just a one peak pinhole kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which got up to almost Cat 5. This system has had 5 different peaks.
Yes.
So it's had 5 different peaks. It's also at a completely different time of year and is overall is a much larger and more robust cyclone.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of time of year, this storm, Kenneth, happened in very late April. Well, this is mid-December, early to mid.
Very polar
Yep.
opposite for this season.
Yes. So I mean,
But
intensity-wise, they're somewhat close, but overall, in terms of what the impacts will look like, probably different. The with the storm itself, its timing, that kind of stuff, vastly different. Yeah, your random comrade 615 says what we've been talking about inside, talking about a Cheeto, how it sounds like a Cheeto. The name. I don't know if it's Chido
yeah,
or whatever.
we've interpreted it as Cheeto, but it also very well could be Chido.
Here, I'm gonna pull it up on my phone real quick. The pronunciation. Pronunciation of Chido. Oops, no, not that. Okay, well, that means cool in Spanish, so I'm trying to. Let's see. I guess I'll do the Spanish one. Why is this a minute long?
I don't
Why
know.
do they have a minute long video on how to pronounce it? Let's see. Cheeto, okay. Yep, so it's likely Cheeto. Yep, Scarlett says it's pronounced Cheedo.
Yeah, so
Yep, we've been getting it right. Thankfully. Hey, those who are watching, if you have any questions about anything around the world right now, about tropics, or if it's just about Cheeto, you can always be sure to ask it. We'd be happy to help answer. Any questions about the tropics in general as well?
once landfall is declared, I will probably go.
Yep, we're around 2 minutes away until landfall. How strong do you think it is? Cat 4 or Cat 3? This is going to be important for the sound effect I'm going to play.
Oh crap! I don't know.
You say we call Cat 4?
I would do it, but
Alright.
yeah.
To me, it looks better than John.
I agree.
Let's see, say we're around 1 minute away from till landfall. I know that the clock is a little bit, like 2 seconds behind the time I'm trying to propose, but anyways. What pressure do you think it is? Upper
I would go
940s?
if it's like somewhere around 950. Yeah, I would
Yep.
just go 950.
All right.
I think the fact that the halves think this can be like 950 and 140 knots is
Yes.
completely cool.
Yep.
No one's ever gonna go. No one's ever gonna go that. But yeah,
hmm Someone in chat there, Scarlett says 125 miles an hour, 948 millibars for me. I don't know about that.
that's
Close.
not bad. As much.
Yep.
One thing to remember is that this is a
All right,
it's
hold on.
pressure to win is going
Real
to
quick,
be.
I'm gonna play the sound effect once it hits. There we go. Okay. So landfall now. Crazy. I don't know if you've been here when I've done that, but yeah, this is just something that I
I've
do
not.
now as a tradition. There, play the landfall sound effect if it's a major. So yeah, Category 4 landfall. A weak one at that, but weak Cat 4 is not anything to scoff about. This is still a very strong system, and it struck Mozambique at 4 Zulu time on December 15th, 2024. People are saying I'd say 115 to 120 knots. I'd say around 110 to 120 knots. Is that acceptable, Crazy?
Yeah, I mean
Yep.
that's totally within the range.
hmm True North has a question for both of us saying, what's your guys' favorite typhoon, cyclone, or hurricane?
Oh man, my favorite typhoon.
hmm
I mean, I think there's only one answer I can really go with.
And what's that?
Yanmu 2004.
Alright. For me, my favorite typhoon would be Bulaban. Just the fact that
Oh,
it's out to sea as well.
yeah,
What about your favorite cyclone?
Cyclone. Now, this is where it gets difficult.
hmm
I think Latan 1994,
Alright.
but
I'm gonna pull that up.
pretty exotic storm, but it's literally the king of the Southwest Indian Ocean, or I guess the queen. But
Oops.
Latan
There it is.
1994 is the goat of the Southwest Indian Ocean. It's not close.
Oh yeah.
It's
Wow.
not. It's the only like 160 plus knot contender that's ever existed in this
hmm
basin. So, and look at that track map, by the way. Look at that
Yes,
track
that
map.
is pretty cool.
It says Cat 4, by the way,
hmm
but
Likely
that
Cat
had
5,
like
yeah.
probably
910
three or more Cat
millibars.
5 games. Yeah.
Yep. I'd have to go with Freddy, of course. Just just because. And what's your favorite hurricane?
Hurricane. Oh, my favorite would
hmm
be. Ooh, I don't like. Do you have to specify Eastern, Pacific, or Atlantic?
Really any. Just hurricane.
Okay. If I'm gonna pick a hurricane, I'm picking East Pacific, but
Alright.
I'm probably going with Jova, but
Okay.
or Hova, however you say it. I think it's
hmm
Hova, but yeah.
Personally, yeah, it'd be that storm, but I think that's my favorite would have to be Irma. Just Irma was such a
Irma is
powerhouse.
not even close to one of my favorite. Challenge
Alright.
screwed over Florida,
hmm
and it decimated literally the entire Caribbean. No
Yes.
thanks.
Yep. Yep.
No thanks.
Yep. hmm
But yeah.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I'm gonna hop out of here.
hmm Thank you so much, Crazy, for the help.
You're very welcome. And
Yes.
letting you know that this stream had to be much earlier than you were gonna
Yes.
expect.
Thank you for that.
Very welcome.
All right. See you in the next stream, Crazy. Whatever that's gonna be.
Alright, see it.
All right. See ya.
Alright. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What are you all saying there? CCXLC 32 animations once again says, did Chido did Cheeto really make landfall on Agalega Island? I looked at the IR imagery as it passed, and the center was just south of the island. It looked like it made landfall on Agalega South Island. I'll try and show that for you all. Right here, the track has it going over North Island. Yeah, it looks like North Island actually. I don't know. Um, If it was even a little bit more south of this, then it would hit Agalega South Island. There's two islands there, so looks like it went for the North Island. But now that we've declared landfall, I'm just waiting on the imagery to come out of its landfall. Alright, this frame is 20 minutes out of date from its landfall. Let's see about this imagery. This is also 20 minutes out of date, so I don't know. I'm not so sure. It's probably, yeah, this imagery right here. I'm going to pull it up on Cyclonic. Yep, so this imagery was around 18 minutes out of date, so probably already making landfall. I mean, it's probably already made landfall, just that this imagery is out of date. Scarlett asks, what is stronger, Monica 2006 or Olaf 2005? Ooh, this is a strong storm I have not animated. Did it make landfall at peak intensity? Yeah, okay. And then you said Cyclone Olaf. Ooh, that is a real powerhouse. Okay. I don't know, they're both equally as strong. They look like it. Probably Olaf though. Just by looking at the eye. That's just my guesstimate. Stanley Gartstick says at low and Cat 4 landfall. Yep. True North says my favorite hurricane is Hurricane Dawn 2023. Yeah, that was a pretty impressive storm briefly out to sea. Not really harming anyone, and that surprised us. It became a hurricane when we were not expecting it, and it did a loop. Grenadine Zest says Mayotte has never seen a Cat 4 landfall before Chido. That I did not know. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. That is pretty impressive, though. I mean, that's a small island, so pretty rare that these islands get landfalls, especially the Comoros Islands. Wait, isn't there like a NOAA hurricane track thing that we can take a look at? Hurricane, there we go, found it. Okay, let me just type it in. I am curious about storms that have hit the area before. Yep, you were right on that. Not many storms have struck. The latest was Jasmine 2022, but that's as a tropical depression there. So the strongest storm was in 1934, an unnamed system. Looks like Category 1. So yep, that is the strongest storm to make a landfall in Mayotte. Mayotte's in history. Oops, okay, and let's see Mozambique. What's the province called again? I forgot. I am so sorry about that. Let's see, it's along the coastline. Can't see it there. Mesufi. Alright, I guess it's this one right here. Yep, right in here, these are the strongest storms. So it's the strongest storm in history to strike that specific province. And Kenneth, you can see over there, as a Category 4. That's more north. So in terms of Mozambique history, I'm curious as to what's the strongest storm that has made landfall in Mozambique. Let's bring this up to cyclone strength systems, major cyclone strength systems. In terms of whatever these lines represent, it would be the strongest since Kenneth. Category 4s and stronger, it would be probably the third strongest storm to make landfall in Mozambique history. So that is pretty impressive. Alright, Scarlett says, which is stronger in your analysis, Morante 2016 or Nora 1973? I believe it was Morante. Weather Uncharted says, what is that website name? This website is called Historical Hurricane Tracks. If you just search it up and look at NOAA, you can find it. TCXLC32 Animation says, Kemizi almost made landfall on Mayotte. Yep. Now what about Agalega Island? Let's take a look at that. Okay, I butchered that spelling horribly. I'm gonna look this up off stream so I don't embarrass myself with spelling. Okay, yeah, that was much simpler than what I was trying to do. Would this be it right there? Okay, there we go. So let's take a look at the strongest storms that have made landfall there. A lot of tropical depressions. So only only two systems have made landfall outside of 2018, which was a Category 1, and Andrew 1983, which was a Category 2 storm. So this was the strongest storm in history to strike Agalega Island. So that's also very impressive. The fact that it had such a high intensity. That north and also... Oops. That north and hitting such a small target. Very impressive. Of course, before doing these streams, I've never heard of Agalega Island, so that's new to me. Same thing with Mayotte. I've heard of the Comoros Islands. I didn't know Mayotte was its own territory. Weather Uncharted says, thanks, I've been looking for it. You are welcome. Yeah, it's a pretty useful website. Here, I should be using it more often, actually, when I'm doing my live streams, seeing how historical certain storms are. Now, of course, we can be somewhat glad it missed northern Madagascar. Those who are in Madagascar would be thankful for that. Of course, since it missed, though, it did impact parts of Mayotte, or dead on Mayotte and Mozambique now, as a stronger system. So again, if you have any questions, or so, not just analysis, but if you have any questions about things around the world with tropics right now, I'd be happy to answer. Any questions about my animations or anything like that, again, I'd be happy to answer. Also, if you aren't already, please be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. 2,000 subscribers. And I am currently at, let me check, 1959, so I have 41 to go in like 16 days. Chido, or Grenadines Death says, Chido has an unusual track due to its near due west track. Also a small storm. Yep, again, this early in the year, pretty rare. That's due to this ridge right here. That's making the storm move west, and then going to be moving southwest towards Malawi, again over Mozambique, and then towards Zimbabwe. Mr. Peach says, when do you think you'll be uploading your next animation video? So my next animation will be tomorrow, in around 13 hours from now, just less than 13 hours. And that will be the 2024 North Atlantic hurricane season animation. Probably one of the best animations I've made, if I do say so myself. So, again, I'd love for you all to watch it if you're available then. Even if you're not available at that specific time, you can always tune in later and watch the animation. I spent a lot of times working on it, worked on it starting August, so hoping it's probably one of my best animations, so hoping it does really well. Whether Uncharted is making a joke here, saying, what if this happens? 5 storms form in the North Atlantic on December 31st. Well, that would be very unfortunate and to my animation, so I hope it does not happen. Is the track of Typhoon Tess 1953 coming? Says Scarlet. I'm going to look at Typhoon Tess. Personally, no. If it's not really a strong landfall, it's only a Category 1 landfall, the video wouldn't do that great, so I don't want to waste time on that. I want to do things more that people want to watch. Specifically as well, Chido, this storm I will definitely be animating. Most likely on the 22nd, again at noon Eastern Standard Time. So you all will be able to see all its likely. I don't know if it made the. Possibly all Category 4 landfalls, so that's going to be quite interesting seeing 3 back-to-back-to-back Category 4 landfalls.
Um,
Huh, did someone just join the call?
it's one of your favorites.
Oh, Daniel, what's up? Yes,
I always find a
finally
way
relevant.
to snuggle myself into a stream.
Yep. Welcome. So, looks like it made a landfall as a Category 4 in Mozambique, the third strongest storm to do so.
Yeah, me over here trying to load up uh, uh Flight Sim 2024 so I can test those weather physics
Ooh,
for
nice.
once.
Yep. Is the strongest storm to
But
strike Mayo.
as always, yeah, but as always, Flight Sim takes 25,000 years to load
Yep.
up.
And you have a good computer, so.
It's because it's the 2024 versions from the cloud.
Okay.
Most of it's on the cloud. So it takes longer to load.
Yep.
I just got in.
Yeah. I do not have an expensive computer. It's only like. It's under $500, everything combined, including monitor. But for me,
How?
it works.
How?
For my purposes, it works.
For now.
Yep, I'm not trying to do any supercomputer animations like Daniel does.
Not even that. You
Hmm.
think they're a supercomputer? Oh no.
Yes. Oh my
You've
God.
not
You
seen
have such a great
anything.
computer. Hmm.
I have a decent computer compared to what's out there.
Yes. Compared to me, though, it's like the best out there that I've seen. Or that at least someone I've talked to.
Yeah. I mean, just putting in this group chat like what I was working on yesterday,
Hmm.
and you'll be my computer was not happy with me.
Oh my God, the lag in that. Wow. Yep. Let's see. TCXLC32 animation says small storms scare me. They ramp up so fast when you least expect it. Cheeto is a good
Yep.
example of it. Yep. Small storms can really intensify very quickly and also can fail really easily. So,
Degrade. Yep.
yep. They always worry
Florence
you when they
was
form.
interesting.
Hmm.
Florence was more just a collapsing,
Was Florence
but
a small
it's
storm?
I don't remember if it was or wasn't.
Hmm.
All I know is it kept destroying from wind shear, so it probably was on a bit of a smaller side.
Yep.
I'll get back to you on that.
Hmm. Scarlet says instead of Tess, maybe do Typhoon Gordon 1989 in terms of animation suggestions. 1989.
Yeah, Florence initially was a smaller system.
Hmm. Oh, Gordon's would be a nice
It got
animation, I think. This is a really powerful storm. I'll think about doing this. And then let's see, someone else said Chaba.
Trying to think of some other small storms that have been
Typhoon
powerful.
Chaba
I
made
mean,
a 2 week of a landfall in Japan for me to really animate it. I'd really only animate things that do Cat 3, 4, or 5 landfalls. If it's like an old storm.
yeah,
Currently, I have my schedule fully booked for like this next month. 15th is the Atlantic, 22nd would likely be Chido, 29th would be possibly the Western Pacific, and then the January 5th would possibly be the North Indian Ocean.
Chase, you need
Yes.
to teach me how to do those animations,
Oh my god, it still takes
storm animations.
a long time to do.
I would probably be able to blast right through it.
Yeah.
I could probably find a way to do it in Blender, but it's
Blender,
probably
yeah, that'd be
inefficient
cool.
to do it that way.
Yep.
A 3D render of the storm.
Yes.
One render would take probably a whole day to render out, even on a more simple animation.
Mhm.
But it can be done.
Yep. So I'm probably going to wrap up the stream in around 4 minutes or so. There isn't really much more to talk about.
Glorious.
Okay, there we go. There's the frame right there. 406 Zulu. Look at that. Landfall right there. Culled it at 4 Zulu.
Okay.
And then this is 406. So that was a really good landfall timing by me and Crazy.
Wow.
Just going to send this in. Alright. Stanley Gerstka says, what about Gustav 2008 hit Cuba as a high in Cat 4? That would be a good animation, I think. I would think about doing that. I tried to animate 2008, but then I just lost motivation as I was working on other projects. I am going to be working on 2017, though, so be on the lookout for that. Anyways, I'm going to try and give a
Yes.
summary of everything going on in the world right now, from least important to most important. So
Very.
least important, we have this system, 93S. Sorry again for the satellite imagery. For some reason, it's down. Yeah, this storm shouldn't really do much. It should meander towards the Cocos Islands. It's just a little disturbance. Nothing much. Then we have 95P near the Cook Islands, which could be something subtropical. Hard to tell. I think that the circulation isn't organized enough, though. But yeah, this system's going near the Cook Islands, dumping some rainfall there. Gusty showers. Nothing too bad. We have 91B, which has around a 20 to 30% chance of developing. Could impact the same area as Fengol, and 90B impacted. So just be on the lookout for that. More rainfall. Not really a wind threat, per se, just more so rain. Then we have 96W, which is headed towards Palau and then Mindanao. Could become a storm. We have a 40% chance of it developing into a tropical cyclone. So that could be our next stream if it develops and looks like it's going for looks like it's going for a landfall. Then we'll do a stream there. And last but certainly not
Chase
least,
just
we
sent
have
the
Chido.
photo of what sim is.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And last but not least, we have Chido, which is now moving inland. Thankfully, rain doesn't seem to be that much of a concern. Wind will also be wind will be the main concern. It seems like as it moves inland. So, yeah, that's mostly about it. Category 4 landfall in Agalega Islands, Category 4 landfall in Mayotte, Category 4 landfall in Mozambique. So, 3 live streams in 4 days. Glad to finally be over with this.
Yeah,
Hopefully
so
they are as well.
I think everybody could say the same.
Yep. Well, thank you, Daniel, for your help so far, and I think Crazy as well. I'll
Wow,
see you all in
my,
the
my
next storm.
little help.
Bye, yes. See you all in the next storm. Have a good one.